Today, you saw the Electoral Commission here explaining the donations which have been declared by political parties in the second financial quarter. So, before the local elections, some of the figures: the ANC receiving 22 million rand, the EFF saying it had not received any donations, the DA and the Action SA both saying they got just under 17 million rand. Under the system, political parties have to declare any donations they receive that are above 100,000 rand. Now, in the last 24 hours, the Democratic Alliance has accused the IEC of turning a blind eye to information about both the ANC and the DA and the EFF. The Deputy Chief Electoral Officer for Political Party Funding is George Mahlangu, who joins us again. Mr. Mahlangu, good afternoon to you, and thanks for your time once again. Let's start with this claim against the ANC. So the ANC says it received 15 million rand from Chancellor House. Chancellor House is an investment vehicle set up by the ANC. What do you know about the donation from Chancellor House to the ANC?
Good afternoon, Stephen, and good afternoon to your viewers at home. Thank you for a double dosage. Yesterday I was here, to clarify some of the issues. Stephen, the donation by the Chancellor House, it's seen as a donation from a juristic person. And according to the legislation, the donation from the juristic person must be disclosed and declared by the political party, which is what has happened. So from where we're sitting, when there is a disclosure that has been done with the commission, we do not go and check who the shareholder of the donation is. We look as to whether the company is South African registered or is it a foreign entity, because the two are dealt with differently, and the monies are used differently from a donation from a foreign source and a donation from the local source.
Okay, so you don't know where Chancellor House got the money from. So ANC supporters, I mean, anyone, I don't know, a foreign government could give the money to Chancellor House and they could give it to the ANC?
Yeah, the legislation doesn't give us powers to probe or to force political parties to disclose. So we rely on what is being brought before us. Hence, in our statement, we appeal, to the South African society to allow the financial year end of the political parties to end, because the independent auditors are going to look at what, the political parties have disclosed, to us. And then they will have to, the political party have to submit audited financial statements back to the commission. So this is two-pronged compliance. The first compliance is the quarterly submission to the commission, and we publish to the public. The second one is the political parties submitting to independent auditors who belong to a professional body, who will look at what the legislation requires from the independent auditors themselves, and then post that information will be submitted back to us.
Okay, so Mr. Mahlangu, let me just sort of remind myself of some of the context of this. I mean, this is not a judgment on you or the Electoral Commission. So here's what we know. We know that Chancellor House is corrupt, right? Here's how we know. They had a stake in Hitachi South Africa. Hitachi South Africa got a contract to build the boilers at the Medupi power station. The boilers failed, and as a result of this, that's one of the reasons we probably had load shedding this week. Now, that is the context. All of this is on the record. We know this is on the record because the United States fined Hitachi because of the deal it had with Chancellor House and the fact that it then benefited from the contract at Eskom. Just a reminder, these are the boilers that failed. Now, that's the context. So the point I'm trying to make is, if we know that an organization is corrupt, there's a link between the ANC and government, Eskom, Hitachi, the boilers at Medupi, and now this organization, Chancellor House, which is in the middle of all of this, and this organization gives 15 million rand to a political party. Are you saying you only can sit on your hands? There's nothing you can do?
Stephen, we can't operate outside the legislation. And the legislation provides that if a complaint is brought before the commission, and the Chief Electoral Officer is of the opinion that there's prima facie substance towards that complaint, that complaint, the commission will investigate. As things stand, there is no complaint of that nature that has been brought before the commission. Whoever has got such information must bring it to the fore, and then the commission will exercise what it is provided for in the legislation. So I think to expect the commission to administer on suspicion or on hearsay, probably it's too much of an expectation from our side. So if there is credible information and the complaint is laid with the commission, I think the commission is required by the legislation to investigate the matter. So what you are saying, if it is brought by any member of the public or Stephen Grootes, I think the commission will be bound by the legislation to investigate what has been brought before it.
Okay, so someone could start a company and they could call it, give us illegal donations to the ANC. They could take money from, I don't know, the American government, the Chinese government, the Russian government, the Ghanaian government. And so long as no one complained, they could give that to the ANC. It could be 100 million rand. And unless someone complained, you couldn't do anything.
That's what the legislation provides. I mean, we are expected as an independent body to live within or to operate within, the powers that have been entrusted with us. So if the legislation is weak, I think the powers that might be must look at, the amendment of the legislation. However, as things stand, we can't operate outside the legislation. This is a legislation first of its kind. If the society out there is of the opinion that it doesn't do what is expected from it, like any other legislation, I think it must go back to Parliament, where, the legislators will look at what the society requires, and then the legislation must be amended to look at the outcry out there. As things stand, we can't operate outside the legislation.
I do appreciate your position, Mr. Mahlangu. I must just declare myself fairly cynical that Parliament is going to do this because it's not in their interest. The powers that be may not find that it's in their interest. Anyway, let's move on a little bit. So the DA also seems to be claiming, and this is quite interesting because, again, I think you're going to give me a similar response, and again, I appreciate your position. The DA claims that the EFF has received money and declared nothing. And let me just state, the EFF has said in the last 24 hours since you and I last spoke, they have said in public that they did receive money in the third quarter, so this is not the quarter which was declared yesterday, the third financial quarter, which they will disclose. They were given money for their local election. But the DA's point is that the EFF, they believe, failed to, in its legal duty to disclose in the quarter that you and I have been talking about. How much evidence do you need to investigate the non-disclosure of donations? Again, I suppose you need a credible complaint.
Of course. Again, we can't go out. If the DA is of the opinion, DA or any other member of the society is of the opinion that they are aware that there was a donation that was received by political party A or B, and when the commission has published the donations, that donation isn't there. They must bring that information to the commission. And we are obliged by the legislation to look at that complaint. As things stand, we don't have anything that has been brought before us. And we appealing to any other member of the public, to any other person who's got information of that nature, to bring that information before the commission, and then the commission will look at it.
It's an important point you made a little earlier, that this is the first time we've done this. I get the sense that there are going to be a little bit of sort of birth pains, but things are going to calm down. Do you think that's what's going to happen? We're going to sort of get used to this legislation? Or do you think there's still going to be a lot of arguments about it?
Look, the compliance level that we've picked up in the second quarter, it's different from Q1 because we didn't have to go, back and forth with political parties requesting that they must do that, they must do that. So we are of the opinion that at least we will, as time goes by, we will mature. I know there's an outcry that there's many political parties who are registered with the commission, but only 6 have disclosed their donation. But we can't go and knock at each political party's door and say, can you please prove to us that you have received donation or not. It is up, it honors within this phase until the end of the financial year rests with the political party and the donor, be it a natural person or a juristic person. It rests with them. Until the audit has been done, the information will come back to us. And if the finding of the audit is found wanting, they are running the risk of being struck off the role of IRBA. So we are expecting the independence of the auditors at the end of the financial year to remain independent, so that their finding, when they are submitting back to us, we will come back to the public, including Parliament, about the findings of the auditors.
George Mahlangu, I appreciate the time. Thanks very much indeed for the clarity as well. Deputy Electoral Officer for Political Party Funding at the Electoral Commission.